film shows several men trying to smuggle firearms illegally from China to South Korea. At the same time, the Chinese state government is trying to investigate the firearm smuggling case by sending a female spy agent named Ling Ling. The head of China's intelligence agency chose her because she is the only Chinese spy agent who has lived in South Korea for a long time. The scene moves to South Korea, where Ling Ling meets her captain, named Agent Chao, to take some money and a fake identity that Ling Ling will use during the mission. In this operation, Ling Ling will change her name to Da-Hee and work with a male intelligence agent from South Korea named Shin Ki-ru. After agreeing with Captain Chao, Shin immediately went to an apartment to rent a room that would be used as the headquarters for investigating this case. He rents a room from a South Korean independent detective, Woo Soo-han. Woo Soo-han is forced to rent his place because he needs a lot of money to pay for his apartment and living necessities. After agreeing on a rental price with him, Shin goes to his apartment to collect the money that will be paid to Soo-han. But on the way to his apartment, Shin gets into a very serious car accident when he tries to save a baby in a stroller. At first, Shin manages to save the baby from a speeding car. However, before he could pull over to the side of the road, a large truck suddenly lost control and hit him, throwing him very hard. Since that incident, none of his relatives know where he is being treated because he rarely communicates with them. Meanwhile, Da-Hee gets word from Captain Chao to go to an apartment and meet Shin. When he arrived at Soo-han's room, Da-Hee immediately thought he was an agent employed by Captain Chao, so she immediately gave him the money he had entrusted her. At that moment, Soo-han thought that Da-Hee was Shin's subordinate assigned to buy the apartment, so he immediately agreed to everything she said. What's more, she promises to pay all the rent for Soo-han's apartment if they manage to solve the case. After agreeing to work together, Da-Hee immediately explained the firearm smuggling case to a man named Park Do-sig. Unfortunately, when Da-Hee was about to explain the case further, a middle-aged woman came to Soo-han to ask for help so that Soo-han would help her find the missing dog. At first, he intended to reject the case because such cases were too troublesome for him, but Soo-han immediately accepted the case after the woman offered him some money and gold. After the woman leaves, Da-Hee then reiterates about the gun smuggling case and Park Do-sig, who will be the target of their surveillance. Soo-han had asked why she didn't hand over the case to the police and let the police handle it themselves. The first step they have to take is to tap on Park Do-sig's cell phone to retrieve all data from the cell phone. And to run the operation, they had to go to a dance class in Gangnam because Park Do-sig used to spend his weekends there. The next day, they went to the place and pretended to be learning to dance salsa there. Not long after, Park Do-sig came to the place as Da-Hee had predicted, and she immediately approached him to invite him to dance together. While dancing with him, Da-Hee secretly took Park Do-sig's cell phone and handed it to Soo-han. After receiving the cell phone, Soo-han rushed to the bathroom to retrieve the data from the cell phone. But because Park Do-sig's cell phone was too old, Soo-han couldn't hack the cell phone and could only read the messages on the cell phone. After reading all the messages from the cell phone, Soo-han returned to the dance hall and put the phone back in Park Do-sig's trouser pocket. Shortly after, Park Do-sig got a phone call from someone who made him leave the cafe to answer the call. But when he was on the phone, a mysterious man suddenly appeared and injected a liquid into his neck. It didn't take long after the man left for Park Do-sig to fall unconscious and die of a heart attack. Everyone who spoke to Park Do-sig before his death was questioned by the police, including Soo-han and Da-Hee. However, after they gave convincing testimonies, the police decided to release them. But the head of the police investigation still directed his men to keep an eye on the two of them secretly because their movements seemed suspicious. On the way back to headquarters, Soo-han says that their deal has ended because their target has died and their mission has been completed. However, Da-Hee denies this and says they still have to investigate this case further because she is sure that the person who killed Park Do-sig is the real mastermind. Soo-han then confesses that he rarely investigates such complex cases, making her doubt his abilities. Because Da-Hee insists on solving this case, Soo-han tells about the contents of the message on Park Do-sig's cell phone that he had previously read. He remembers that before Park Do-sig died, he had blackmailed and threatened someone named Jun-hoon to hand over some money. Before Da-Hee returns to the inn, she contacts Captain Chao, saying that the agent who was sent to be her partner now looks very incompetent. Captain Chao, who doesn't know about her misunderstanding, replies that Shin often pretends to be stupid, so people don't know he is an agent. The next day when Soo-han is preparing some pamphlets to look for the lost dog, Da-Hee goes to him and invites him to help solve this case completely. She has received information about the head of a South Korean mafia gang who was shot dead by someone and suspects the mastermind behind the incident is the same person who killed Park Do-sig. Da-Hee needs someone who knows a lot about mafia gangs, and Soo-han, who has acquaintances with the former mafia gang, immediately brings her together with his acquaintances. Soo-han's colleague explains that the mafia gang leader killed last night had a clash with one of the dangerous gangs called the Axe Gang. The Axe Gang is known to be very ruthless and dares to do various ways to achieve its goals. Therefore, his colleagues were sure that the person behind the shooting was likely an Axe Gang member. After gathering all the available information, Da-Hee concludes that there may be a third party who wants to trigger a war between mafia gangs because they want to make big profits from selling weapons to these gangs. Da-Hee and Soo-han disguise themselves as police officers and go to the Axe Gang leader to inquire about the shooting incident the other day. The leader of the Axe Gang admitted that he and his members were not the masterminds of the attack or shooting. Soon after, gunshots began to be heard from outside the office of the Axe Gang leader. It turned out that the gunshots came from a group of masked men who wanted to kill the members and leader of the Axe Gang. Even though the leader of the Axe Gang was killed in the attack, Soo-han and Da-Hee survived and managed to bring the Axe Gang leader's personal cell phone. After that, Soo-han and Da-Hee went to one of their colleagues who could hack the cell phone. Based on the information obtained from the cell phone, it is known that a few days ago, the Axe Gang bought several firearms from someone. His fellow hacker traced the phone number of the person who sold the firearms and found that the person was currently in Seoul. Da-Hee and Soo-han immediately rushed to Seoul to meet the person who sold the firearms. Unfortunately, when they arrived at that person's apartment, the man was dead, hanging in the bathroom. Da-Hee is sure that the man was killed by the same person who killed Park Do-sig, but the killer deliberately engineered the crime scene as if the man died of his own will. They suspected everyone who had bought firearms from that person was intentionally killed to destroy evidence. Fortunately, they managed to get a clue that the illegal firearms broker has ties to the director of a large company named Jun-hoon. Da-Hee and Soo-han plan to spy on Jun to get information about his involvement in this case. They are going to a meeting that Jun will have tomorrow night at a hotel. Da-Hee will use seduction tactics by dressing up beautifully so she can approach Jun, but Soo-han says that she won't be able to use that tactic because she's not sexy enough. At first, Da-Hee denies Soo-han's doubts and feels confident that she can seduce Jun, but when she sees a sexy woman in front of her, she thinks she will not succeed. They decided to use another method, installing a bug in Jun's clothes tomorrow night. Unbeknownst to them, the sexy woman they previously met was actually a spy from a South Korean intelligence agency sent to watch over them. Not long after, Soo-han went to the hospital to visit the wife and son of an intelligence colleague who had died on the mission that he had participated. He feels very sorry for his partner's wife and child because his partner died after he accidentally left him alone on a mission. His colleague's wife asks Soo-han not to visit her son Do-ho too often because she is afraid that he will be shocked when he finds out about his father's death. Before Soo-han left, he had time to ask how Do-ho's health condition progressed. The next day, Da-Hee and Soo-han come to the meeting that Jun will attend disguised as lovers. Da-Hee immediately goes to him and pretends to be familiar with him while placing a bug behind his collar. A few moments later, several members of the Axe Gang came to Director Jun's office to beat him because they thought that Jun was the mastermind behind the attack on the Axe Gang some time ago. However, he immediately denied this and said that most likely the attack's perpetrators were members of the rival group of the Axe Gang, namely the Gombok Gang. It turns out that it was just a ploy that Jun made so that the Axe Gang was willing to buy firearms supplies from him. His conversations were known to Da-Hee and Soo-han through the wiretapping device they previously attached to the director his shirt. Unfortunately, their disguises were exposed after one of Jun's men, who had previously fought with Soo-han in the Axe Gang attack incident the other day, recognized them. Jun promises to release them if Soo-han is willing to do as he orders. Some of his men took Soo-han to the front of a police station and ordered Soo-han to shoot all the police officers in that place. However, Soo-han refuses to do that because his colleague's wife works as a police officer at the office. He quickly grabbed the gun belonging to Jun's men and shot the two of Jun's men so he could escape from the place. Do-ho's mother, who witnessed the shooting, immediately reported to the head office, so they immediately arrested the person in the car. Meanwhile, Soo-han returns to Jun's hotel to save Da-Hee, but by the time he gets there, Da-Hee has already been taken to another place. As he is about to look for her, he is suddenly surrounded by special forces and taken to the police station for investigation. A group of Korean intelligence agents comes to the police station to take over the interrogation process against Soo-han because it turns out that he is a former South Korean spy agent. The intelligence agent tells him that the girl who has been working with him all this time is actually a spy agent from China named Ling Ling. Hearing this, Soo-han looks surprised because he doesn't know that Da-Hee is an undercover Chinese intelligence agent. The Korean intelligence agent tells Soo-han that Da-Hee was sent to South Korea to be sacrificed by the Chinese government so that the Chinese government has someone to blame for the illegal weapons smuggling case. Hearing this, Soo-han looked very angry because he was ordered by his leader to sacrifice his own best friend on a mission for no apparent reason. He intends to run away from the police station and goes to see Da-Hee and save her. Soo-han takes advantage of a police officer who is off guard and holds him hostage so he can get out of the police station safely. While on the way, he contacts his hacker friend to track Da-Hee's whereabouts through her cell phone number. At the same time, Jun's group is buying and selling weapons to the Axe Gang. But at that moment, the Axe Gang still believed he was the mastermind behind the attack on their boss, so they intended to kill Jun and his men. However, Jun manages to convince them that he is not behind the attack and instead accuses Su-Han of being the mastermind behind the murder of the Axe Gang leader. He even tells the Axe Gang where Da-Hee and Su-Han are so that the Axe Gang can kill them directly. All members of the Axe Gang went to the location. Fortunately, they managed to defeat the members of the Axe Gang with their fighting skills and strategies. They defeated all of Jun's men who helped the Axe Gang. As a result, they were able to arrest Jun and hand him over to the police for illegal weapons smuggling and premeditated murder. A few days after the mission ended, Su-Han went to the hospital to pay for Do-Ho's operating expenses without telling his colleague's wife. After that, Su-Han met his boss and Captain Chao to discuss another mission he would handle. Su-Han does not expect that, in this case, he will work together again with Da-Hee, who turns out to be a subordinate of Captain Chao, his superior colleague. In this mission, Su-Han and Da-Hee must find the woman who once came to his headquarters to ask for help finding the missing dog. It turns out that the woman is actually an informant and the gold she once offered contains important data to be handed over to Shin. However, because Shin is currently hospitalized and has amnesia, Su-Han and Da-Hee are assigned to take over the case. Moreover, he had sold the gold to the gold market, so they had to start the gold search mission from scratch. The film closes with a scene where Su-Han and Da-Hee are about to leave for Russia and disguise themselves as lovers to gather important information from their new mission. The film ends. The thing that can be learned from this film is never to judge someone from their appearance or impression because it could be all just a disguise or a lie.